Okay, welcome back. You've sent us a really interesting set of articles about Canada's potential billion-dollar investment in border security. And
Yeah.
it seems like a decision is coming down the wire just before Christmas.
Right. Yeah.
What a fascinating time for this, don't you think?
It is. It really is. And this is far from a simple budget line item.
Right.
This has potential ramifications for, immigration,
Yeah.
trade, even the overall relationship between Canada and the U.S.
You've sent over a mix of news articles and government statements. And it's clear we've got a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
But before we get too deep into the weeds,
Yeah.
I think it's important to understand the why behind this sudden push for increased security.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that jumps out from these reports is the potential impact of tariffs on certain Canadian industries.
Oh, okay.
The dairy industry, for example, is already facing challenges.
Right.
And a 25% tariff on Canadian dairy products could be devastating.
So we can't ignore the elephant in the room.
Right.
The Trump factor. Is this a reaction to his America First agenda and those repeated tariff threats we've been hearing about?
Right.
He's been pretty clear that he sees tariffs as a way to get what he wants.
He certainly has.
Yeah.
And this new border plan announcement being timed weeks before his inauguration
Yeah.
raises some eyebrows, wouldn't you say?
It definitely makes you think.
Yeah.
But is Canada simply reacting to pressure, or is there a more proactive element in play here?
Right.
The articles mention a whole suite of upgrades,
Yeah.
increased officers, drones, helicopters.
Right.
This feels like a pretty significant move.
It does, and it's interesting to look beyond the $1 billion headline
Yeah.
and see what's really being proposed.
Right.
The RCMP, for instance,
Okay.
is preparing to purchase a fleet of new drones.
Oh, wow.
We're talking at least 17,
Okay.
with the potential for more.
Wow.
That's a pretty substantial investment in surveillance technology.
That raises a lot of questions about the future of border monitoring and how these technologies might be used.
Right.
It's a far cry from the image of Border Patrol agents on horseback.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
But beyond the technology itself, there's the human element to consider.
Right.
The articles also hint at a potential overhaul of immigration policy.
Right. And this is where we see a potential two-pronged strategy emerging.
Okay.
On the one hand, it seems like there's a desire to appease U.S. customs officials by tightening up border controls.
Right.
On the other hand, Canada needs to be prepared for a potential increase in migration from the U.S.
Yeah.
If Trump follows through on his deportation plans,
Right.
it's a delicate balancing act, for sure.
This is what I find so fascinating about these articles. They really highlight the complexities of navigating international relations
Yeah.
while also staying true to Canada's own values and interests.
Exactly. And these complexities are playing out in some very specific policy proposals. One that really jumps out is the potential change to the Safe Third Country Agreement, or STCA.
Yeah.
You might be wondering
Yeah.
how this border plan could affect people seeking asylum in Canada.
Right.
That's where the STCA comes into play.
Right now, there's a loophole in the STCA
Yeah.
that allows anyone who crosses illegally from the U.S. into Canada and manages to stay undetected for 14 days to make an asylum claim.
Right.
Is that what the government is looking to change?
They are indeed.
Okay.
This loophole has been a source of tension between Canada and the U.S.,
Right.
so closing it could be seen as a way to ease those tensions.
Mm-hmm.
However, it also raises some difficult questions about Canada's commitment to protecting refugees.
Yeah.
There's a proposed pre-removal risk assessment to protect those who might face harm if deported.
Okay.
But is that enough of a safeguard?
Yeah.
It's a thorny issue.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder about the potential consequences, both intended and unintended.
And then we have this uniquely Canadian practice of flag polling to consider. This allows holders of student or work visas to renew them quickly
Okay.
by briefly leaving Canada at a land crossing and immediately returning.
It's a clever workaround,
Yeah.
but it's causing some friction with U.S. customs officials. They're not exactly thrilled about the increased traffic it creates.
Not at all. And the proposed solution is to create in-country renewal points.
Okay.
This is meant to address U.S. concerns while also streamlining the process for visa holders.
Right.
Will it work?
Yeah.
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
It could deter some people from flag polling, but it also depends on how convenient and efficient these in-country renewal points actually are.
So we've got Trump's tariff threats, a potential billion-dollar investment in border security,
Yep.
drones, potential immigration policy changes, and the flagpole saga.
Right.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, and we're just getting started.
Right.
We've barely scratched the surface of what all this means for Canada,
Yeah,
for the relationship with the U.S., and most importantly, for you.
that's a great point. This isn't just about abstract policy debates. It's about real people's lives.
Right.
So let's move on to part 2 of this deep dive
Okay.
and explore those potential implications in more detail.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
We've been unpacking Canada's potential billion-dollar investment in border security.
Right.
And as promised, we're going to zoom out and connect some dots for you.
Exactly. We've talked about the pressure from the Trump administration, the specific security measures on the table,
Right.
and those potential immigration policy shifts.
Yeah.
But now I think it's time to grapple with the bigger picture. What does all this mean for Canada's relationship with the U.S.?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
On the surface, these moves could be seen as a way to appease the U.S., head off those tariffs,
Right.
and maintain a smooth trade relationship.
Right.
It's like saying, look, we're taking your concerns seriously.
Yeah.
We're investing in security. Yeah.
Tightening things up.
But it's not just about keeping the peace with our neighbors, right?
Right.
There's also the question of Canada's sovereignty.
Yeah.
To what extent are these decisions being driven by genuine Canadian needs versus external pressure?
That's a crucial point.
Right.
It's a delicate dance between maintaining good relations with the U.S.
Right.
and asserting our own priorities and values.
And it raises another question, will these measures actually work? Will they achieve their stated goal?
Oh.
We're talking about more officers, drones, helicopters, all this technology, but will that really address the underlying issues of drug trafficking and irregular migration?
That's where things get more complicated.
Right.
Technology and manpower can certainly play a role,
Yeah.
but they aren't a cure-all.
Right.
We need to consider the root causes of these issues.
Aren't-
Things like poverty, inequality,
Right.
conflict and persecution.
Yeah.
Those are the drivers of migration and illicit activities.
Yeah.
Those are deep-seated problems that can't be solved with drones and border patrols alone.
Exactly. And remember, border security is only one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
We need comprehensive solutions that address the social and economic factors at play.
So while these security investments might create a sense of security in the short term, and maybe even appease some political pressures,
Yeah.
they may not offer lasting solutions to these complex challenges facing both Canada and the U.S.
And there's also the risk of unintended consequences.
Okay.
Increased surveillance and tighter controls can have a chilling effect on legitimate travel and trade.
Oh,
Imagine longer wait times at the border,
okay.
increased scrutiny, more paperwork.
Yeah.
It could deter tourists,
Right.
disrupt supply chains,
Yeah.
and make cross-border business much more difficult.
And let's not forget about the potential impact on civil liberties. Increased surveillance always raises concerns about privacy and the potential for misuse of personal data.
You're absolutely right. It's a balancing act. And it's crucial to be mindful of the potential downsides.
So we're dealing with a lot of moving pieces here
Yeah.
and a lot of uncertainty. But one thing is clear.
Yeah.
The Canada-U.S. border is entering a new era, an era of heightened security,
Right.
increased scrutiny, and potentially a redefinition of the relationship between our two countries.
And this is where we need to think about what this means for you, the listener.
Right.
If you're planning to travel to or from Canada,
Yeah.
you need to be aware of these potential changes.
You might encounter longer wait times at border crossings,
Yep.
face more questions from officials,
Uh-huh.
and need to provide additional documentation.
And if you're a visa holder, keep an eye on those proposed changes to the renewal process.
Right.
The flagpole method might become a thing of the past,
Yeah.
and you might need to plan ahead for in-country renewals.
It's a dynamic situation, and we'll be sure to keep you updated on any major developments.
Absolutely. We're committed to keeping you informed and helping you navigate this changing landscape. Knowledge is power, especially in times of change.
We've covered a lot of ground, but I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this complex issue.
Yeah.
We've talked about the political pressures, the potential impacts on trade and travel, but what about the human cost?
That's a really important point.
Right.
And it leads us into a crucial aspect of this conversation.
Okay.
The ethical considerations surrounding these changes.
Let's move on to part 3 of this deep dive and unpack those ethical implications,
Okay.
especially as they relate to immigration and asylum seekers.
Sounds good.
Stay with us. Welcome back to our deep dive into Canada's border security plan. We've examined the motivations, the measures, and talked about the potential ripple effects.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up, I think it's time to bring it all home.
Right.
And talk about what this means for you, the listener.
We've touched on the potential travel implications and the economic consideration, but there's an even broader context to consider here.
Right.
This isn't just about border crossings or trade deals.
Yeah.
It's about the values that define Canada and its place in the world.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
Canada has always prided itself on being a welcoming and inclusive nation.
Right.
A safe haven for refugees. A champion of diversity.
And that reputation is being put to the test in a big way with these proposed changes.
Right.
Think about the potential change to the Safe Third Country Agreement, for example.
Yeah.
Closing that loophole raises some serious concerns about whether Canada is truly living up to its commitment to protecting those fleeing persecution.
It's a really tough question.
Yeah.
And there are no easy answers.
Right.
On one hand, there's the desire to maintain order and control over the immigration system. On the other hand, there's a moral obligation to uphold human rights and offer refuge to those in need.
Right, and this tension is playing out in the public discourse as well.
Right.
We're seeing a whole range of opinions. From those who support stricter border controls, to those who argue that Canada must remain a beacon of hope for the world's most vulnerable people.
It's a debate that goes to the very heart of what Canada stands for. And it's a conversation worth having.
Yeah.
We really want to encourage you, the listener, to engage in this dialogue, to educate yourself about these issues,
Right.
and to form your own informed opinion.
Your voice matters.
Yeah.
Your perspective contributes to shaping the future of Canada.
As we wrap up this deep dive, we hope you're walking away with a sense of empowerment.
Right.
You now have a deeper understanding of the complexities surrounding Canada's border security plan.
You've got the knowledge you need to analyze the arguments, weigh the trade-offs, and engage in those crucial conversations about the future of your country.
And remember, this is only the beginning.
Right.
This story is still unfolding.
Yeah.
There will be new developments, new challenges, new questions to grapple with, and we'll be here to help you make sense of it all.
So stay curious,
Right.
stay informed,
Yeah.
and stay engaged. The future of Canada is being written right now,
Right.
and your voice is a part of that story.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking.
Until next time, keep exploring.